Monsignor Joseph Bagobiri is the Bishop of Kafanchan from Nigeria. He was ordered priest in 1983 and ordered bishop in 1995. As you know, Nigeria is one of the parts of the world, apart from Iraq and Syria, that is most have the problem with Islamic terrorism. And I think it would be very interesting to know what is happening exactly now. You know that the terrorism, Islamic terrorism or fanatism in Nigeria is Boko Haram. Of course, all of you have heard about the 300 girls that were kidnapped by Boko Haram, but I would like to know what is the situation now in general, Monsignor. What is the situation with Boko Haram? Because the information we have is that they are losing some kind of ground, and that we may be winning that war at least. Monsignor, thank you.
Let me first and foremost thank CitizenGO, Astor Oyer, for providing a platform like this so that our concerns and our worries, particularly in northern Nigeria, will be brought to the surface for the entire world to know what we are going through. 2 days ago, within the headquarters of the United Nations, we were able to give you some information on what is happening in northern Nigeria. Northern Nigeria, in the last 100 years, has experienced significant growth of Christian population in terms of in the area of evangelization. Experts have told us that from a 0% of Christians in the 1900, this is 1900, 0% of Christianity in northern Nigeria. Today, Christianity has grown up to 30% of the entire population. We can talk of another 60% of the population that is Muslim, and then there is the 10% that belongs to people of traditional religion and others. But it has been quite a significant growth of the church, and today the entire population of northern Nigeria has about 31% of Christians. Now, that has made the Muslims very uncomfortable. We have become a significant minority, and because of that, we are the object of insistent, persistent persecution. Who are the perpetrators of these persecution in northern Nigeria? There are 3 categories of people. The first are the northern elites, the Muslim elite, who feel the north is like their property, and they want to dominate not only the political space but also the economic space. And so they see Christianity as alien. And because they are alien, they should be persecuted because they are trying to a kind of encroach in that political and economic space which they feel is their own reserve. And it is true, when it comes to voting, Christians are more inclined to align with a Christian candidate from the south to be the president of Nigeria than to align with a Muslim from the north. So, and that was what happened when we had the president as a Christian the last time. They could not forgive us because we aligned ourselves with a Christian candidate. And in the year 2011, immediately the presidential elections was announced and the Christian won. My diocese, for example, was under serious attack by the Muslims. Many were killed. We'll be coming to the statistics where I told you 2 days ago that between 2006 and 2014, about 11,500 Christians were killed. Then about 13,000 churches were destroyed, and over 1.5 million people are displaced. These statistics I'm giving to you are not just something I make up from my mind, but they are the fruit of a scientific research. That the research was done with the blessing of the entire Church of Nigeria to ascertain the impact of persecution on the church in northern Nigeria. And the report is what we experience day in, day out. Between 1981 to date, we have had over 75 attacks from Muslims that has produced a lot of deaths and things like that. And then we have all these statistics. But one of the perpetrators of what they call the actors of persecution are the elites in the north. The second is the Boko Haram, which you all know. Thank God Boko Haram is gradually being downgraded now. The Nigerian military is responding forcefully, and they no longer have that capacity to take over territories and to rule over territories as they were doing around 2011 up to 2014. 2014 was the worst in terms of persecution in northern Nigeria. The media, an internet magazine, was able to tell us that out of every 64 Christians killed in the year 2014, out of every 100 Christians killed in the year 2014, 64 were from Nigeria. So it was the worst year in terms of persecution by Boko Haram. But the third actors and drivers of persecution in northern Nigeria are the Fulani herdsmen. Now, they are a nomadic, non-sedentary people. They look after cattle, but they travel across the West African region. But they have assumed a certain form of terror that is even worse than that of the Boko Haram. In my diocese, for example, 3 communities have suffered that. They will go in one night and they can reduce 3 settlements to rubbles. And in each of these 3 places, they killed between 100 and 150 people overnight. I have shown you some pictures of such killings. So these are the actors and perpetrators of persecution in northern Nigeria. The northern elite, the Boko Haram, and then the Fulani herdsmen. In general, these are the real things. Our fear is that what Muslims have succeeded in doing in the Middle East, totally downgrading, flourishing, and destroying flourishing churches, what they have succeeded in doing in North Africa, the entire North Africa, from the beginning of Christianity, had flourishing churches in different parts of North Africa. Today, there are no more. The same thing in Asia Minor, what they call the Western, Central, and Southern parts of Asia. These are the places in which St. John in the book of Apocalypse spoke of the 7 churches of Pergamum, Laodicea, Philadelphia, and these 7 churches that God spoke with. They were all flourishing Christian churches. Today, they don't exist. Turkey was where Constantinople was. Today, Constantinople does not exist. And Muslims have not stopped nursing the ambition to take over Rome. Now, the same kind of tactics they use in degrading the church in the Middle East, in North Africa, in Asia Minor, are the same being applied. First, through persuasion or what they call sleuth. They can use money and do that. If it doesn't work, they move from persuasion and sleuth to the second stage, which is institutionalized discrimination. They stop you from getting land to build churches. In political appointments, you are pushed to the marginal. So you are being subjected to all kinds of inhuman discrimination. This is the second tactic. Then the third tactic will go to forced migration. Forced migration here, they will come because they want to, people have been living on their land for years, which they got from their ancestors. They are pushed out from their ancestral lands, and their ancestral lands are taken away from them. And then when this still does not work, they go to the final one, which is martyrdom. And we have experienced that a lot in Africa. So in short, this is the scenario. In the case of the Chibok girls, the over 200 girls that were picked up 2 years ago, my informant tells me that you cannot recover these over 200 girls. Last December, they showed you a picture of about 12 of them. Early this month of April, they show us the picture of 6 of them. This is what they can do. They can no longer tell you that these 200 girls are alive. Some of them have been sold as sex slaves to Syria. This is their counterpart. You know, Boko Haram and ISIS are brothers and sisters. So it is believed, I was told, that some were taken as sex slaves into their members in Syria and other places like that. Others were used as suicide bombers. There was a time in Nigeria, most of the people who were committing suicide were women, young girls, who will be in their hijab, carry their bombs, and detonate them in public places. So we want to believe some of them have died as a result of suicide bombing. But there may be a handful that may be kept for the purpose of negotiation. And they ask the federal government to give them $50 million and they will release them. But the federal government said they are not going to give them money. The present government is doing well in fighting Boko Haram, but it is not doing well in fighting the invasion and the attacks of aboriginals by the Fulani headsmen. And the Fulani headsmen, our president belongs to the same ethnic group with them. He is a Fulani man himself. And so that makes it a bit difficult for him to stand forcefully to condemn and to approach with the same kind of aggressiveness to the prevention of the incursion of the Fulani people on the lands of natives as he is doing with the Boko Haram.
But you say that the problem is not Boko Haram, but the radicalism of Muslim people against Christians?
But
because has it been condemned by the Islamic authorities of what is doing Boko Haram?
they have two faces. They have two faces. There is the public face where they will stand and condemn Boko Haram and say this is not Islam, but definitely the way Boko Haram and the Fulani headsmen are operating, they are poor people, they cannot buy AK-47 guns, they don't have that technical capacity and knowledge to be able to make bombs. Surely there are people who sponsor them And just like the last speaker spoke, you know, this thing, what Boko Haram is doing and the Fulani headsmen are doing is Islamic. It's Islamic. He said it, the person who just left the chair here. Islamic terrorism is Islamic. I think we can make this an issue for discussion, that they draw the inspiration from Islam. If you get a very good person today that converts into Islam, and he wants to look at Muhammad as a model and someone he should follow his way of life, and read the Quran and wants to live it, he cannot but naturally become violent, because he sees all other persons as infidels that don't have a right to exist. I think this is one area we should address. Is Islamic terrorism Islamic?
You speak a lot on interreligious dialogue. Do you think the dialogue is possible with that Islam that has two faces? Do you think it's a possible a moderate Islam in a country where you Christians are not, you are a minority but not so minority? 30 million people is like 31.05% of the population in North Nigeria.
Yeah.
No? So you are a significant minority, but in that dialogue, is it possible to have a dialogue with that Islam that with two faces?
Christians are a significant minority in northern Nigeria, not in the whole of Nigeria. The southern part of Nigeria is predominantly Christian. And so we can talk of a preponderance of Christian population in the entire nation when you put it together. But it is impossible for a Muslim to win an election without the support of Christians in Nigeria, and it is impossible for a Christian to win an election without the support of Muslims in Nigeria. So that makes cooperation with one another an imperative. On the political level, politicians know how to handle their problems, but at the same time, they know how to use religion to their advantage. Like the governors, the 12 governors in northern Nigeria, in order to have good control over the politics of the north, they woke up one day and just declared that all the northern states are under Sharia rule. It was a political statement. Now, what we are saying about dialogue, we have been on it, and the Catholic Church is always in the forefront. I have been involved as chairman of the Interreligious Dialogue Committee within the Catholic Bishops' Conference for over 7 years. And then I was also chairman of the West African English-speaking countries in promoting dialogue with Muslims. But very often the dialogue is with the wrong people. You are doing it with the moderates that don't need any conversion. While you are sitting down in your tables talking on peace, the bad boys out there can start off something. And so even the good Muslims are not in control of the bad ones, and the bad ones can strike anytime. So dialogue must continue. The Catholic Church is in the forefront of it. Even if you look at the two recent joint declarations by Pope Francis and Patriarch Kirill, and then Pope Francis in Levros recently with Patriarch Bartholomew, the first points in their joint declarations are a call to dialogue and better understanding. But this should happen within the religious leaders' level. Government should not be involved in dialogue. Government should be involved in what we call dire praxis, enforcing the law. If Christians are involved in criminal activities, government should be there to enforce the law. The judiciary should be there to enforce the law. If it is Muslims that are involved in act of criminality, don't bring them to the table as government and say, let us talk with these people. I think government exists as a moderator, and she has the laws that will allow her to moderate the conduct of people. So while interreligious dialogue should be promoted by people of religion, Muslims, Christians, government should be more concerned in what I call dire praxis. This is the practical enforcement and implementation of law. If the laws we have in the Constitution that guarantee freedom of worship for everybody, freedom of conscience, freedom of association, freedom of this, if government should rise to her responsibility and enforce them, then we shall have no problem. And this is what I would want to ask, that yes, dialogue has not really produced so much, but it's better we have to keep talking. We have to keep talking. But we are always talking with the wrong people, not with the militants, not with the terrorists.
In a pastoral way, how do you face this challenge when there is an attack of Boko Haram to a parish, or one of your churches is burned, or one of your people has been killed or kidnapped? What are your words to your people? What is the compassion? How do you live that in a spiritual way?
Definitely, we try to respond immediately with some help. Some are taken to our hospitals. Those who need relief materials are supported in that. And their sufferings have always been a big source that challenge us to greater solidarity with those that are suffering. In my diocese, when something like this happened, we try to put up a physical appearance to stand with the people, to identify with them. So these ones are always there. But if it will be okay for you, I will want to stand up now and make some presentation on two main areas. The first one will be on what we see to be the role of the international community in the light of what we are going through. The second one is going to be what should be the Christian response to terror. I have been thinking a lot on that. I have written a lot on that. So if you will allow me, I can use the PowerPoint and quickly say a few things on the need for us to respond to this terror in a holistic manner, faithful to the gospel of Jesus, but not picking this verse of the Bible, pick this verse of the Bible, and we say this is the Christian understanding on how we are to respond to violence. Then the last thing I will want to talk briefly will be on what kind of a society is by way of a conclusion. So if you will allow me to use the podium and use the slides, that will be okay.
Yes, we may have time, but yes, have we?
Okay.
Go, sure.
So Louisa, are you there? The first slide, the role expected, everything is there. And we are saying in the light of what we are suffering as a local church, that the international community should employ more effective advocacy measures that will pressurize the Nigerian government to do more to guarantee and ensure total freedom for Christian minorities in northern Nigeria. These freedoms that they are being denied of include the denial of the rights of the minorities. They should halt forceful invasions and attacks and takeover of ancestral lands. These things are happening in Nigeria. Then addressing the pervasive cases of persecution, violence, discrimination, and marginalization. Because of our minority status, many Christians suffer a lot of discrimination. And then they need to enshrine democracy and rule of law. This is where I said, while we as religious people could talk on dialogue, we want to see that government is able to forcefully enforce the laws. Then the other problem we have is what the person who spoke earlier than me will tell you, that within the Nigerian Constitution, there is Section 10, which allows for neutrality of the state, that allows for freedom of religion, but at the same time, we also have something of Islam inside the Nigerian Constitution, which was taken into the Constitution by military dictators, and we have been trying to expunge that from the Constitution, but that has not been possible. We'll ask that the Nigerian government should ensure that Section 10 and Section 38 of the Constitution is well enforced and implemented. And if that happens, then it is going to reduce the whole issue of discrimination and other things that we have. The next slide. Now, the question of the response.
Son asesinados por ser cristianos. Iglesia martiria.
The church was taken unawares. Initially, there was silence. How are we to respond to terror? There was silence. But when the church leaders started speaking, they were speaking with different voices. You will have some who will say, we should be more pacifist. Let us just forgive. Let us take whatever hardship comes. There are others who feel we should just go on revenge. And then there are others who feel that we should not go on revenge. We should show forgiveness, but at the same time, we should be able to stand and defend ourselves. So we see here that a research asks the question, can churches die? And the answer is yes, churches can die. We have seen it in North Africa, in the Middle East, in Asia Minor, that one-time flourishing churches just suddenly died. And so we now have to ask the question, what then do we do in order to guide against the experience of the older churches? Can we go to the next slide? Mm-hmm. And here, from our own research consultation, we have come up with about 10 ways in which Christians can keep the faith going, and the faith will not be destroyed completely. We say the first one is that the persecuted church should fight despair and cynicism. So we should not allow persecution to lead us to despair and cynicism. The second one, to promote sound Christian formation of our youth. We should see that our youth must be trained to be very strong in their faith, and they should not give up in their faith. We should promote sound Christian formation, promote sound civic education for Christian politicians. That means our politicians must be well educated and be prepared to give witness within their own area of calling and vocation, which is in the area of politics. Generate good church leadership. We should see that pastors are well prepared, and that can go a long way in helping the church to withstand persecution and trial. tackle the laid-back mentality that accepts second-class status. Yeah, the Muslims will want us to feel we are second-class, but we have to work hard to say, no, by virtue of our own calling and being citizens, we cannot accept the second-class status that they give to us. We have to speak out prophetically and uncompromisingly. This means we have to be courageous in condemning whatever abuses that we see taking place. We should prepare church members to face persecution. We should promote dialogue and reconciliation. But at the same time, we should encourage Christians. They must be educated to be fearless, to be courageous in the face of persecution. And sometimes it will mean being able to defend themselves and ward off anything evil that is coming. The next slide, Louisa. Yeah, yesterday, on Thursday, Dr. Farr, in his intervention within the first roundtable discussion, he made this point. This is really an idea from him. And he's saying it is like the church in the world today is trying to distance herself from the principle of a just war. And it is saying, no, the church is trying to distance herself even from her teaching on legitimate self-defense. And Dr. Farr is saying, no. And we are just saying that the gospel of Christ does not only call us to be people who accept violence being done to us, but we should be able to challenge the violence. And I think this is, when we talk of challenging the violence, sometimes it means what this view tells us, that there are times in which the use of moderate, proportionate force is not only permissible, but it should be seen as an imperative and something that should be done. And I think when we try to show approval that proportionate use of force can be used sometimes in order to avert greater evil, if this is seen as part of the faith of the Christian, of the gospel, then I think it will go quite some way in helping us. Let's go to the last slide. By way of conclusion, we are just saying here that the purpose of our intervention is the establishment of a new world order where the human family lives in peace, in freedom, in harmony, in love, free from violence, was still free from a violence that is inspired and motivated by religion. We therefore appeal to world leaders, especially at the political and religious levels, and to the international community. We passionately appeal to all those saddled with the responsibility to promote the welfare of their subjects and provide them adequate security to rise up to these two great challenges. They should provide the enabling environment that discourages discrimination, marginalization, forceful migration of the indigenous people from their ancestral lands, and worse still, the resort to violence as a way of seeking redress, either to real or perceived injustice. It is our hope that discussions at this level will contribute a great deal towards bringing that new order whereby all of us, in our diversity of religion, diversity of ethnicity, diversity of political affiliations and things like that, we can still live peacefully and in harmony with one another. And this is our desire for the new world order that we are all praying and talking about. Thank you.
Okay, I think we will have some time for some minutes. That we have? Yes, some minutes for questions. Yes, there is one here. Gregory. Oh.
Thank you. Thank you for your very interesting talk. I have a question. What is your view of Christian religious leaders actually speaking out against what's going on against Christians? What I have seen is that I think the Pope was too late in speaking out against the genocide, and he set an example by doing so. But still, I find that our religious leaders are very slow. The ones at high levels, they are somehow shackled by politics, and they're too slow in speaking out against what's going on. And I'd like to know what your views are on this. Thank you.
Yeah, religious leaders, particularly the Catholic Church, has always been consistent, persistent, and very vocal in the condemnations of things like this. But as I keep saying, there is a limit to which our involvement in this area could go. The condemnation must be backed up by some kind of commitment on the side of government to see that whatever form of criminality that goes on in the society, that they find a way to use their offices rightly as government to put this to a hold. But in terms of prophetic utterances, the church in Nigeria has been up and doing and has been courageous, not only in condemning terror, but sometimes also in condemning corruption, which is endemic and is also responsible for a lot of things. So we have been quite prophetic in this regard.
Yes, we are out of time, so I would ask you for short questions and also for short answers. And we will do all the questions all together, right?
Could you talk about the relationship between groups like Boko Haram and the Fulani and groups like ISIS and where they're getting their funding from and if they're sort of have a formal allegiance or alliance?
There was another one. We'll go all together, yes.
Hi, thank you for your practical suggestions for solutions. As an American citizen and a Christian, I've seen more and more that American politics contradict my Christian views. I've come to accept that, thinking this is not a theocracy, and is this the same thing as accepting the role of a second-class citizen? By accepting that American politics won't represent Christian views, is that the same thing as accepting a role as a second-class citizen?
Okay, let me start with the last one. The concept of the second-class citizen does not come from the Constitution that is based on democratic principles. When you have a Constitution based on democratic principles, it assures equality by all citizens, equal opportunities. It also assures freedom and the right exercise of our fundamental human rights. Now, democracy gives that to you, but this is not what Sharia gives to you. And so when you now have in one constitution the principles of democracy side by side with the principles of Sharia, this is where the problem comes in. In Nigeria, we talk of the concept of dual ideology. Dual ideology is where military dictators in the past without consultation with the Nigerian population, inserted the Sharia and portions of the Sharia into the Nigerian constitution and made the amendment of that constitution almost impossible. To be able to amend anything in the Nigerian constitution today, it's going to be a Herculean task. And given our diversity, it's like expecting the impossible. So from the point of view of democratic culture, the guarantee for equality is there. But there are 12 states in Nigeria that, against the constitution, adopted the Sharia to be implemented in their own states. And by adopting it, they are ipso facto adopting inequality and discrimination on the basis of religion. Now, as to the relationship between Boko Haram, the Fulani headsmen, and ISIS, sometimes last year, Boko Haram declared her submission to be an affiliate of ISIS. And since that time, they were getting a lot of support from ISIS, and that relationship, up to today, nobody has told us whether it has been broken. So we believe there is still some link between Boko Haram and ISIS. And as I stated 2 days ago, Boko Haram is more deadly than ISIS in terms of the killings in which she has done in Nigeria within the period that I have said. And it is not me saying this. The Amnesty International described it as the deadliest terrorist organization. So it's not my opinion at all. It is not even a minority Christian opinion. It's the opinion of an international body that is always concerned on the abuse of human rights. The relationship of Boko Haram and the nomadic Fulani headsmen is like two sides of the same coin. They believe on the use of violence, they believe in impunity. They can invade an entire community and wipe it out completely, destroy the properties and the things that are there, and in some efforts take over the pieces of land and forcefully make themselves to stay on the land of the people that they have a kind of remove from that environment. So for me, I will see them as two faces of the same coin, carrying out the same kind of atrocities and targeting the Christian minority and other natives.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we don't have time for more. Thanks for your testimony and thanks for your thoughts. Thank you very much, Monsignor.